There's power in a factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand.
So, today we're going to talk about the rise of labor unions and workers organizing to better their lot in life during the Industrial Revolution. But before we do, I want you to stop for a second and solve this problem. I'm going to show you some evidence from the past of a household income and expenditures. And I want you to take a look and think to yourself, what do you notice about the problem with this situation? What we have is a household budget for a coal mining family of six, right? So their earnings, the father, $420 a month, son, $420, 21 years old, 18-year-old, $420. So they each contribute to the household bills. You got a son who's 16 years of age. He's working. He's not going to school. He earns $150 a month. The total for the month is 1,410. All right, not a bad chunk of change. So the cost of living, what do we have for the cost of living? You got $240 for rent for the month. Fuel is about $10. Meat, $200. Groceries, $700. Now we don't know exactly what this grocery list was made of, but we know that they spent $700 on groceries. Clothing, $80. Boots, shoes, and other dry goods, miscellaneous things, $70. Books, papers, etc., $15. Life insurance, which they've taken out, $18. And you think to yourself, why would the family of a coal miner take out life insurance? It's a lot of money, and it's because the coal mining was an extremely dangerous job, and it still is to this day. For sickness, if someone in the family was sick, they spent $4. Sundries, which are kind of random goods around the house, random other things they had to buy, was $75. Now, if you do the math, what you find is they actually spent $1,412, which is a couple dollars more than they made. So they're in the red. Now, if you look at the list, you can make some sacrifices, right? Cut down on some other things. Maybe eat a little less meat, cut back on groceries, fuel, maybe kind of heat the house less. But you're getting into some health and safety factors for your family. So I guess you could cut back on books. You want to try to better your kid's life, teach them how to read. So we have an issue where they're not making ends meet, and it's not because they're not working. You got four kids in the family working, including the father. So what do you do? That's a problem. Let's look at another. The income of this family is actually enough, but is it a lot? Let's go back and take a look, right? The $339 leaves very little wiggle room for any kind of accidents, sicknesses, or cuts in wages, right? So how do you solve this problem? Long term, this is not a sustainable way to live. So you could go to your boss and say, hey, I need a raise. I can't make ends meet. But the likelihood that your boss, especially if you worked for a larger factory or business, was going to raise your wages to help you out wasn't going to happen. They had their own set of things to deal with, particularly the profitability of the company, making sure the company works. They couldn't raise the wages of individuals. In fact, you might even put yourself at risk for appearing like a rebel rouser or a danger. Who is this person who thinks he can come in here and ask for better pay? So, you could go try to find another job, but then you risk losing the job that you have. So this is, your options were quite limited if you were in the working class. Remember, some of these people probably came off the farm from the enclosure movement, and they're just lucky to have a job. Well, the answer that many workers found is in this political cartoon, this image. Now, if you look at this, is from 1917, so we're well into the Industrial Revolution, and it's from a magazine called Solidarity. You take a look at the name Solidarity, which is a workers' magazine, and it says the hand that will rule the world, one big union. So, if you pause for a second and take a look, what is this suggesting? What's happening here? You have all the workers blending into one big fist to raise their hand and power. And it's implying that they run the ships, they run the factories, they run the cities. And together, they can be strong and fight for better pay and better wages. And um, the rise of the workers and labor unions. One more time before we go to the kind of history of it real quickly. I'll share with you a Langston Hughes poem that sympathizes the workers. He says, called Workers, it says, the bees work. Their work is taken from them. We are like the bees, but it won't last forever, right? So what this implies is, like the bees, their honey, the honey is taken from the bees. They're saying their work, their labor is taken from them. I mean, and think about it. They work for a certain pay, and the point of the company is to try then take that labor and whatever they made and sell it for a higher profit. They're arguing, the workers are arguing that that profit is taken from them and they're being abused. So what we're going to talk about from here is workers, as the Industrial Revolution moves along, workers take action to improve their conditions. How do they do this? They fight for better pay, they fight for better conditions, and in some cases, just dignity. There's a famous labor song called Bread and Roses. They say, yes, give us bread, the wages, but also give us roses. So they fought for better conditions. What were those conditions? Think back to yesterday's class. Long hours, dangerous conditions, and many times low pay. Often, this low pay is happening in the shadow of high profits, or at least what seems like the companies are making tons of money. So the unions begin to fight for what they see as their piece of the pie. Now, if you stop for a second, why were industrialists able to subject workers to such conditions, these hours, these low pay? Well, for one thing, most workers had to pay rent. Any disruption in their income could get them evicted and kicked out into the street. And as we saw from earlier, they didn't have a lot of wiggle room as far as their money's concerned. The workers don't own anything but their own labor, their own body. So the only thing they can sell is their work, their labor. They don't own the means of production, so they can't, they don't have much power. The factory owners, they have they have the work, they have the factories where the workers work in. The workers only have themselves, so they have very little choice. I am in a union and I'm a public employee. Higher wages means higher taxes for some people. So should public employees be allowed to have unions? Should they be allowed to have a say? Um, what do you think? Keep in mind what you think, and we'll talk about it in class tomorrow. All right, thanks. So I'd like you to think back. Do you think a worker has a right to join a union? Do you think workers should have an equal say, or is this, hey, this is my factory. If you want a job here, you do what I say? Are you somewhere